Yeah, there's a lot of stuff outside. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will call the meeting of the Common Council to order. I will ask our clerk to call the roll to determine a quorum.
Alderman May.
Here.
Ranky.
Here.
Rote. Here. Stefanski.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weigel.
Here.
Barzak.
Here.
Plesky.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Lysek.
Here.
That's 10 present.
We have a quorum. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led this evening by Alderman May.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We move on to item D on our agendas, public hearings. We have one item for public hearing this evening. I'll ask the clerk to call that out.
Resolution approving the vacation and discontinuance of a portion of unimproved city alley right-of-way between South 107th Street and South 108th Street, south of West Lincoln Avenue and north of West Hayes Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Vacations are always a good thing. A former director of Public Works and city engineer has said we've never had a bad street vacation. Oh, excuse me, wrong picture. We've never had a bad street vacation. About 22% of the entire city is in city right-of-way, so it's always good to see us returning land to more productive reuse. In this case, it's an alley off of Highway 100 in this area here that has been, the southern part has been vacated, the eastern part has been vacated, and the southern part has been vacated years ago. So this will complete that vacation of areas that we did not need. As you can see from an aerial map, this is the area that we're talking about being vacated. Any street vacation requires a public hearing, and that's the purpose of this meeting this evening. We've had the 3 legal public notices published, and all the property owners have been notified, and we've received no objections to date. The Plan Commission has reviewed and approved this recommendation to vacate this alley. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions from the members of the Common Council? Seeing none, are there any questions from the members of the audience? Okay, seeing none, we will close our public hearing and we will move to item E, which is citizen participation. This is the opportunity for residents to address the council during this 30-minute period. We ask that you keep your comments to approximately 5 minutes, and any speaking will be at the podium up here on your left or right or straight in front of you. Does anybody wish to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay. We will move to item F, where I will now announce that our standing committees will be meeting during our recess this evening. Those room numbers are listed on page 1 of your agendas. Moving to item G, I have nothing for the mayor's report this evening. Do we have any reports from the alderpersons?
Mayor Devine.
Oh, I'm asked, excuse me, President Lysek, I was asked to mention West Allis a la carte. Thank you. Coming up first Sunday in June, which I think is the 2nd, noon to 6 in our downtown business district. There will be food trucks, music, kids activities, a lot of information on the downtown bid district's website as well as the city's website. Thank you for the reminder on that one. Alderman Lysek.
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council regular meeting of May 7th, 2019.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman Vitale. Are there any adjustments or amendments to the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll move to item J on our agendas. I'll ask for a motion to place item 3 on file and refer items 4 through 6 to the city attorney.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Alderman May, second by Alderman Barzak. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Item K on standing committee reports, we have none this evening.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick.
I move that we stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We are in recess.
we the north?
Yeah, when they're at the same latitude we are.
I mean, you have to
Yeah.
make fun of.
All right, Nick.
Trying to look on the positive side.
That Winders Sing or Open Pantry or Doing Fish, it's Pantry 41, I'm sorry. Are they here?
You're on 44, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, number 44.
Is that Winder Singh from from Pantry 41? Are you here?
The gas station.
Don't see it.
That's the mobile, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
let's just hold it aside here a second. Okay, Martha Gabrielle, Solis,
Yes, senor.
Martha Gabriela Solis Villasenor. Are you here? That's strike two.
okay, we'll hold that one. Maybe we went too fast.
These are all first non-appearances?
Well, we're gonna hold those still. Jill Statnick? Come on front. Statnick? Stanek. Stanek?
Staniak.
Staniak. I should have known that.
Number 46, correct?
Okay, this is number 46. The numbers thing. Okay, this is for new license for,
Bartender license.
pardon me? Right,
Bartender license
and where are you gonna be working?
at Randy's Neighbors Inn.
Where?
Randy's Neighbors
Oh,
Inn.
okay. Okay,
I am working there.
right. You know what? We called you in because of, as you know, we do police checks on everybody,
Right.
and you didn't have anything written here as far as any violations.
That was my fault. Because my lawyer hadn't gone to court on it
Okay,
yet.
so
I
it's
didn't
still,
think I had to
still
put it
pending?
on that one. He went last week. But when I filed for it, I thought I had to put it on the next time that I applied for my license, so that was on my error.
Because one, yeah, it's not less, and not your process for both of them.
Yeah, I would.
What do we got? I don't have.
Well, it's,
Oh,
you know, it says, geez, since it's changed. Well, that's why you're here.
Right.
You know,
I
and,
assumed that's what it was.
you know, obviously anybody who has an OWI that's gonna be serving alcohol to people, you know, you, at least once, you didn't make a right decision, and
Right.
so we're concerned about, you know, in the future, making other decisions.
It won't happen again.
Probably, and the second part of that, the possession charge. That's another problem that we have, because you talk to the police department, they said a lot of drugs go through bars, and if you have that problem,
Oh, it wasn't, they cleared me already down in Milwaukee. I just had to do a 20 hours community service. Wasn't mine. It was me giving it to another person. I've never dabbled in drugs, nothing with them.
Mr. Chair,
all in me.
you say giving it to another person? Oh, can you describe
It
what
wa-
you mean
it
by that?
was a girl that I knew, she had them, she couldn't take them anymore. Another girl that I knew did, and I says, you know, I can give them to her. She had lung cancer and money was tight, and so she gave them to me. I even completely forgot until the officer saw them in my purse, that I had them in the bottom purse.
So you're
and it was
basically, it was
in
someone
there.
else's drug with their name on it, but you were in the possession of someone.
Right,
Okay,
because I do not do any drugs.
does anyone else have any questions on this?
No, Mr. Chair,
Alderman Weigel.
so have you been bartending in other cities before, other communities? So you just started
Just
working
West
at,
Dallas.
just at Randy's?
Right.
Okay. And how long have you been
And
working?
I've been
there?
there, since his wife died, so it was 8 years.
Okay, so just like the busy nights, you're like the extra bartender? Are you
And then I waitress sunset.
server also?
Right.
Okay.
Mhm.
You understand the importance of the bartending license and the rules that go along with it? You
Yes, I
understand
do.
all that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, don't serve people that are drunk. I don't
Right.
think we've had neighbors in here once, yeah,
Yeah.
once maybe. But, and if there is a problem, you should call, if you think you should call 911, pick up the phone and call, and our trained professionals will come help solve it.
Yeah, aware of that.
And you don't have your license until you actually have your license. So likely be approved by this committee tonight, and then you'd be able to pick it up tomorrow, assuming it clears the whole council tonight, which it likely will. Be able to pick it up in the clerk's office till about 2 o'clock, between like 10 and 2, and if you don't pick it up, then it'll be mailed to your address.
Okay.
But again,
Well,
you
I do have mine still.
have a
from-
temp, you have a temporary, or,
No, it's a regular one,
oh, this is a renewal?
yeah.
No, it's just new.
It says renewal on the police report.
Did I say renewal?
No, it's renewal.
Okay.
So I have mine until, what
Says
is
new
it,
on
the end
the-
of June?
Yeah, till July 1.
X renewal.
Oh, it's just so- Okay, I just thought I knew, okay.
Yeah, this new form's got
A
it.
new renewal.
Mr. Chair, if I could.
Alderman me.
Nick, maybe, I saw your hand up, like you wanted to say something, but just, you know, it's one thing to have your friend's drugs, but then you're also being the person to pass it on. That is definitely,
I learned my lesson on that.
Illegal.
I did not
Don't-
know it was that.
yeah.
I learned my lesson on that day.
Did you have anything to add, Nick?
My understanding, this was in court today, my understanding is that there's a DPA on that one, meaning, or diversion, maybe they're diverting that case. That point aside, this is still pending, the OWI is still pending, there hasn't been a conviction on that yet, and so because it's a pending offense, it's not something that we can consider unless it's substantially related, and either an exempt offense or a violent offense against a juvenile, so we couldn't consider it at this time if we wanted to. It could be grounds for future revocation, but for right now,
State law says with what we have,
Yeah.
we're compelled to approve.
Okay,
I move approval.
Second.
is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you very much. Now, do I still pick up the license? I don't, or do I just wait till my other one comes? or-
It'll get mailed to you. You currently have a license that goes through the end of next month.
Right.
And this one will be mailed to you before that.
Okay, okay, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you. Benjamin Bishop. Benjamin Bishop. This is, this came to us because of the possession charge? Is that why this is here? Because we normally don't have these, for these licenses, have these people
If there's
in front of us.
multiple charges. we would have- What did I write on the bottom?
That there's, there's a report. That's all it's written on here. And so, once again, going way back when this first place was open, I don't know if that has any, well, the drugs probably would have something to do with that. So we'll hold it, call him in again. Okay. John Starr? This is came up the last meeting, where got whole Washington closed down for a special event permit. Okay, last meeting, there was a lot of questions about it. First of all, closing off the whole street. There's no alleys on these streets, so nobody can get to their houses.
Oh, no,
And
they're able to get to their houses. We're not blocking any driveways or anything like that. I mean, the street, yeah, I'll have the barricades there, but I got people at both ends of the street that they can still get to their houses or get out of their houses, whatever.
their driveways?
Their driveways, yeah.
You're gonna let cars drive
You're
through
going all the way
the
to 50.
party.
Well, if they have to, yeah, if they have to. We did it last year. I mean, obviously, I'm not gonna have traffic going through, but the people that live in the neighborhood, if they have to get to their house or leave their house, it is what it is.
Mr. Chair.
All on me.
Have you talked to the neighbors? Have they given approval to this?
Yeah, I already
You
got
filled out the block party
signatures, yeah.
Permit and you've got, okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got signatures.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause that's one thing we didn't know about last time.
Oh, really? Yeah, I got them last time, too.
No, I mean, last
2 weeks
council
ago.
meeting,
Oh,
when we had here, we asked if there were signatures, and apparently maybe you got them, but I didn't see them.
oh, yeah, I turned that in
So,
weeks ago.
Mr. Chair,
all on me.
seeing that the neighbors have signed off on this,
Okay,
Sorry.
has anybody seen that, though? He said he turned it in.
Well, Mr. Chair, I verified with the engineering department that he did in fact submit a block party permit.
Okay.
At the time I asked, it hadn't been approved, but I don't know about now.
Mr.
All on me, go ahead.
I move we approve subject to verification of the proper signatures for the block party.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Maybe not specifically for this, but should we consider when an event's gonna have this kind of impact on the neighborhood, we have a public hearing on it?
I don't know if it's in the ordinance or anything.
I mean, I'm just thinking it's maybe something we should discuss an ordinance change. I don't know.
Do you have any problems this
No,
this
I don't
your
think so.
Not
second time
one.
you have it, or?
Second time.
Okay. There's
Not
no
one
problems
problem.
there?
None.
I didn't get any calls,
Yeah.
you know,
Everything was
but,
cleaned up.
So if we don't have any problems, then we can
Yeah,
continue on.
yeah, I don't want any
If there
problems.
are problems, then it'll be a rapid halt to it.
Yeah, like I said, the police can walk through anytime they want, check it out, do whatever they gotta do.
okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carried.
So, do I still have to find out if, through the, about the
Well, we're-
signatures and stuff? I mean, I turned it in, like I said.
Turned it into who? To city
Whoever
clerk
the-
or the engineering?
Upstairs or
department?
downstairs? Upstairs
yeah.
engineering.
Yeah, engineering, yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna look into that? Okay.
They'll let you know.
All right, very good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't think anybody new came in. So, that's what I'm surprised about. Everybody was mailed something out and they all are supposed to be here. Okay, we're gonna hold all these. So then we have item number 32. This is for,
I'll move for approval.
Second.
is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I should abstain?
Yes, present, yes.
No. What did you say?
True term is abstain, but we have present, so it's the
We
same.
have present on that.
Yeah.
It should be abstain, but I'll vote present.
Mark it as present on the sheet.
Yeah.
Well, this is present abstain above it, so we're pretty well covered here.
Okay.
Okay, then we have number 33. This is for Hankey's, 61st and Lincoln.
I move approval.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. 34.
I move approval subject to necessary requirements.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Got all the paperwork here. Number 35, St. Augustine's Parish.
Move approval, subject to.
Well, then we're gonna waive their surety bond, that's the thing, and yeah, so we're approving that we're gonna waive the surety bond.
Do I have a second here for Mason? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure we all knew, cause I wasn't sure myself until I read further.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then we have the police report, item number 36. And then we'll have 37, 38, and 39. The motion to place these on file?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. That's my second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That is all. Motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
He's gonna,
We're holding those other ones.
All right.
call them in.
And the Administration and Finance Committee will come to order. All 5 members are present. Item 7 is a resolution approving an intergovernmental cooperation agreement between the City of West Dallas and the Wisconsin State Fair Park Board for first aid, first response, and emergency transport for the 2019 and 2020 State Fair seasons. We need to amend that. It says in our heading 2029, we need to amend that to 2020. But,
Really planning ahead.
yeah, we got folks from the State Fair here. Thanks for coming, folks. And yeah, Mason, can you just come and tell us a little bit about this big picture here? Thanks, Chief.
Good evening. So before you, you have a resolution to enter into a second agreement with State Fair. So right now, we currently have one agreement that covers municipal services for the fair, and part of that existing agreement is fire protection and ALS protection. For the past decade or so, Bell Ambulance has been doing the BLS, the basic life support at the fair. The fair is opting to look at different avenues for BLS this year, and they approached the fire department and asked if we'd be capable of doing that. We put together a proposal based off a mix of staffing of our ALS providers as well as Milwaukee County Office of Emergency Management. We simply don't have enough bodies in-house to make this work, but Milwaukee County does employ firefighter paramedics from other fire departments on the side. They work at events at the Pfizer Forum and other venues across the area and provide medical care. So we're basically going to subcontract and supplement our staffing with OEM staff. So it'll be a mix of West Dallas firefighter paramedics on duty or on overtime, as well as OEM staff on site. And then there'll be a West Dallas command presence there at all times overseeing the event. Our total personnel cost, we estimate the worst case scenario for the city would be $83,000. This deal before you with the State Fair is $100,000, so there's $17,000 of wiggle room to cover, expenses that are going to come up with the event. Overall, we feel that it's a very good deal for the city. We've ran these numbers a couple different ways. We sat down with finance and the city attorney, and I think we're all in agreement that this is a good deal for the city.
All right. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Alderman May?
So our first contract where we're 100% covered with the fair?
You're saying if you add our first contract and the second
No,
contract?
I was saying this is our first contract where we're actually made
Oh.
whole for our services.
It depends on who you ask. I would say this is a
I'm
better.
happy. I'll take
This is
it.
a better deal than
Yes.
the existing agreement. This is in addition to, not replacing the existing agreement.
And in all fairness to the state fair, it's state funding that sets it, not the fair, so, I don't hold that against you. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion?
Move approval.
All right, so we need to amend it first. So can I have,
I move approval with the amendment.
there we go.
Second
that's
with the
perfect.
amendment.
Thank you. And any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item 8, resolution authorize allocation of an amount not to exceed $3,300 for pay for exceptional performances for municipal court personnel.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please, Rebecca.
Rebecca Grill, City Administrator. When the pay for exceptional performance policy was passed, municipal court employees were not included as part of that. The judge has requested that his staff be, that some money be allocated for them for exceptional performance, and this is the amount that I have worked out with him for 3 employees.
Alderman Root.
You just answered 3, so they each get 1,100?
No, it's not divided up that way. If you'd like me to go over that,
I didn't know how many
can
he had
at some
working for
point.
him.
There's actually 4. There's one person that's a provisional employee. She doesn't work full-time.
The bailiff doesn't count, does he?
No.
Yeah, we always have a policeman there, okay.
Move for approval.
A motion from Alderman Chapletsky.
Second.
Second from Alderman Weigel. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Alderman May.
do we account for this in our budget every
This
year,
is-
or in the future, can we include a block in our budget? We will.
The challenge is so we do include it as part of our budget for all other employees. The challenge is that they're not part of that policy that allows us to allocate from that amount.
And the reason being because of separate office.
Well,
Correct.
they could,
It could be.
you wanna,
Sure. So by statute, the municipal court supervises and directs court staff. However, the council is charged with setting salaries for court staff. So in this particular case, although the council could be more specific in its allocation of salaries, it's advisable because the judge is the direct supervisor to potentially grant that person the ability to have a chunk of money to distribute as they see fit based on performance of staff. So that's the reason why it's worded this way and why it's a separately, why it's a separate item rep for the county.
But in the budget in the future, we could include a line item potential.
you could, but then you'd be just allocating him that amount every year.
So basically, what he should do, Mr. Chairman, what he should do is put in his budget.
If he wants to have the
Yeah, if
amount
he wants.
available every year.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 9, resolution relative to approval of the employment contract for position of Health Commissioner Robert Leichau.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 10 is a resolution to amend the City of West Dallas policies and procedures, creating, maintaining, and administering pay ranges, including amended title, compensation, pay, administration.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion from Alderman May, second from Alderman Weigel. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. And item 11, a resolution to approve the use agreement between the City of West Dallas and the West Dallas, West Milwaukee Recreation and Community Services Department of the School District of West Dallas, West Milwaukee et al. For use of McKinley Park.
Move approval.
Mr. Chair.
I don't think we're ready to do that
No,
yet.
no.
though. Yeah, I would like to be with you,
I
Marty,
thought we were.
but we're not there. Yes, Kale.
Mr. Chair, there was a version submitted, and that's the published version. It was one I drafted in which it essentially allows the school district to use the park facilities for the entire season that they would from May 15th to September 15th.
November.
Or is it November 15th, sorry, November 15th, so the entire season they could use it. In exchange, they would take care of the entire area of the park that they use during that time. I shared this version with the council for the school district and got a version back that I then sent out to the council. It imposes a much more stringent duty upon the city to maintain that area throughout. And instead, the only duty that the district would have would be to prepare the ball fields before games and essentially pick up any trash or anything left after the games. Other than that, you would assume that all maintenance will be on the city. So those are the two versions that were presented. It was sort of a short timeline, so I wasn't able to really do anything more than just give you both versions, the district's version and the version I put together. So it's up to the committee to decide if you want to approve one or the other, or if you wanted to try to amend one or the other to add different provisions. So it's really up to the committee now.
I think we need to hold this and let our able city attorney work with the council for the school district and come to a meeting of the minds.
Well, what's our recommendation?
For the whole park, or just the north end for the baseball diamonds, or?
What I had advised was they would take care of the whole park and then have the whole park available for exclusive use. They've come back with just wanting to take care of and occupy the ball diamonds, and only take care of it when they're using it and shortly after.
Alderman May.
And I think they should have to take care of the bathrooms while they're there. What I'm looking at is, I'm comparing it to how Little League of West Allis works. And when Little League uses their ball fields there, they clean them, they maintain the fields of their own, they take it upon themselves to clean the restrooms, all that stuff. And, I don't, if I recall correctly, before the city had this property, all that fell on the school district anyway. Correct?
When they were the
So-
owners, yes.
Yes.
So I have no problem with asking them to continue to do that.
Alderman Chableski.
Okay. I'm missing something here. City owned McKinley Park. We sold it to the school district. School district sold it to a developer. And now they're coming to us to get a contract.
We lease
We
it
lease
from the
it back.
developer.
We,
So
say it again?
we are currently the
Or they
lessee.
They lease it, okay.
So the city is a lessee right now.
So
of
we
the
can
whole
use
park.
it while we're waiting to be developed.
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Weigel.
So do I understand they're not gonna operate the summer playground at the, that's.
That was not part of the agreement, no,
Okay. What, but
that they presented.
all they want is the baseball diamonds,
That's what it appears.
but they expect us to have the bathrooms open for their baseball players to use.
Yes, they'd
And
be
they
willing
expect
to,
us to maintain the bathrooms,
it appears so.
and we're not charging them even $1 a year for the rent.
No.
Okay, just wanna understand where they are, where we are, and they want us to mow all the lawns, but they'll mow the baseball field.
They might mow the baseball field if it's necessary to prepare it for the games, but I would not anticipate that they will.
Well, they will if we don't. Well, I don't want this to become a school district, city of West Allis thing, but I think
Common sense.
if we were leasing this out to a private group that wanted to use the fields, we would ask them to mow the area, we would ask them to clean the bathrooms, we would ask them to maintain the clay or sand or whatever they're using on the fields. And again, I like to remember that we're all the same. I'm paying taxes to the school district, I'm paying taxes to the city, I get it. But it's a bigger strain on our DPW to have to go out there and maintain something they didn't have to a year ago.
And we're still doing all the snow shoveling too, which I understand, cause they're not gonna use it in the winter, but I'd like to see it go back to the way it was, when they owned it, they maintained it.
I mean, we took on the lease in order to help the deal go forward. But in the end, the school district's gonna have pretty much the same use out of it for baseball and stuff and such, so. I'm kinda leaning your way.
And they made a lot of money off of the sale.
Right, and we don't,
Right.
so,
A lot of money.
they expect us to have the bathrooms unlocked?
Yes, they're supposed to be available for use. And they would do a cleanup.
They'd empty the garbage
they'd
cans.
remove garbage cans and things. But it would be up to the city to maintain the actual restroom cleanliness.
That would not be in my direction as a point of negotiation.
But
I'd like to see them maintain it.
Which is the prudent, is what Kale had drafted originally.
All right, so we're gonna hold this without Alderman
Okay.
May.
So, there was some additional language, you sent a marked up copy, and it included language on insurance and all that other fun stuff. Was that included in your version?
No, I've removed all
So that's the
insurance
stuff
and
we need to add.
indemnification. So if there was any insurance provision, it would say to maintain a reasonable commercial insurance, and something much more just falling under the umbrella of both the district and the city's insurance umbrella. That's the only insurance I would recommend that the committee approve.
Just frankly, if someone cuts themselves on a fence, they'll come after us, they may, if they're litigious, come after us, come after the school district. Before, we didn't have that liability. Well, our liability, because it's a park, would be very minimal.
We have a lot of recreational
Very
immunity.
Yeah, but still.
Unless we charge them a fee, then we waive recreational immunity.
And it's actually, if you only charge a fee to spectators.
Oh, see, that's why he's the city attorney.
So that's the general direction, right, Mr. Chair, is treat it like they had it before.
I'll take the comments from tonight and renegotiate with the district's attorney.
All right, so yeah, we'll hold this for our next meeting then. Thank you, Kale, on that. And item 12, Finance Director Comptroller submitting a report for $2.7 million in checks issued. Have a motion to place on file.
So moved.
Second. A motion from Alderman May and a second from Alderman Root. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. And then item 13 is discussion regarding possible opioid manufacturer litigation using outside counsel.
Mr. Chair.
Attorney Decker.
There are two firms that approached various city officials with the idea of filing litigation on behalf of the city of West Dallas against opioid manufacturers and distributors. The idea would be that each firm would represent the city as outside counsel on a special project, just this one item. And we actually have representatives from each of the firms that are here tonight. So if the council would like to, the committee would like to hear more from them, I think they have got some information I want to present you with. I think the idea tonight is, unless you have a very strong feeling one way or another, it's a good idea to hold this item after hearing what they say, so you have some time to digest it, think about it, and you can ask me questions in the meantime. And by the next meeting, hopefully we have enough information to make a decision. But if you want to open the floor to hear from either provider, there's a firm from Florida that has local counsel and a firm from Texas that has local counsel. So both local counsels are present.
Yeah, folks, if you want to come on forward, have a seat at the table here.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question of Kale? Competing firms or?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So essentially, they're just going to give you what they would do. They are different approaches from a legal perspective. So that'll be a big difference between the two of them. Other than that, looking at the firms, they're both qualified, competent firms and would be well represented. It's just really more the idea of which angle do you want to take, because they are different legal strategies.
Can I add, this is different. Usually you go for a request for proposals, or we actually have both of you in front of us at the same time. I don't think I've ever seen that before.
This was the most efficient way to do it, I guess, to get
Okay.
it going fast, because they both approached. And so I told each of them that they could each do about 5 minutes to present their general proposal, and then if they had any questions from the committee, they could take those questions.
Yeah, and I think we'll just go left to right. And so, sir, tell us who you are.
Sure.
And tell us about yourself, please.
Well, let me first say good evening and thank you for hearing from us. My name's Dan Griffin, and I had an opportunity to meet with council before the meeting, and we've corresponded a little bit, so we have had a chance to discuss the case. Let me just kind of clarify one thing with the very short amount of time that I have, and before we start to think about the bucks too much.
Yeah.
I am not acting as local counsel. I am a partner in the firm, and that matters to us because this case is very personal to us, and it's personal to me. I live in Greendale. My wife is an ER doctor in the area. My kids go to Hell's Corners Lutheran. I mean, this is our neighborhood. I drove straight down 76th Street to get here. So it's very personal to us. The case is personal. We have offices here in Milwaukee. We do have our major flagship offices in San Antonio, and we have an office in Salt Lake City. So we're national, and basically this is what we do. What I think is the most important thing to talk about is that we are already in the litigation. It's not overselling it to say that we currently represent literally millions of people in the opiate litigation. We represent hospital districts, counties, cities, Indian tribes in New Mexico, Texas, some cities in Wisconsin, as well as in Utah. So what's the difference? What do you guys have to know? What you have to know is that you're going to hear probably two very different strategies as to how to bring these claims. And our strategy is to keep it local so that we can have control of the case. Let me give you the absolute quickest Reader's Digest version of what's happening in the opiate litigation. You have essentially three buckets of cases. The first bucket that you kind of hear the most about, because it just makes headlines the most, is what is known as the national MDL, or multi-district litigation. These are cases that are essentially federal claims. They are filed into federal court, they're aggregated, and they've been moved to the Northern District of Ohio. In our opinion, you lose all control of your case once a judge in Northern Ohio is deciding whether or not you can settle that claim and what West Allis's damages would be. We do not adopt that strategy. We are adopting the strategy, what I would call number 2. Not that it's second best, we think it's the best. We keep it in county court. We represent the city in Milwaukee County. We bring the defendants to the jury in Milwaukee County and have them face the jury in Milwaukee County. The damages are decided specifically for West Allis. West Allis money stays in West Allis. We don't aggregate your claim in any way, and you get to negotiate your settlement as you would as a plaintiff in any case. So that's a very big difference. We want to keep it here, and we're talking to other cities in the county to do the exact same thing. We think that's really the only way to get fair and just compensation for the city. Truly, we do. And then the third bucket is what I'd call kind of the AG claims, the Attorney General claims. You hear a lot about these too, mainly because Wisconsin finally sued on behalf of the state. Our state AG filed his claim, and he's only suing one defendant, really one defendant. He's suing Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, who owns Purdue Pharma. Our case would have many, many different defendants, approaching probably 20 to 30 different defendants in the state case. So that's going to be the major difference that you hear. Filing in federal court is a completely different strategy that we don't adopt. We don't think you should do it, and we'd like to keep your claim here. Our track record speaks for itself. We have had major mass torts as a firm. We've represented American farmers. That's how we started as a firm. Tens of thousands of rice farmers against Syngenta. Again, those were in state court. Tens of thousands of American corn farmers and rice farmers against Bayer, again in state court. And again, the third kind of category of our clients is American soldiers against 3M, again in state court. Always with the same strategy, because we think it's worth it. We think you get more for your claim, you get what you deserve. So that's one thing. Some other important things before I pass over. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll just kind of guess what you're thinking.
Yeah, what's the name of your firm again?
Phipps, Deacon, Purnell.
Thank you.
And my name is Dan. So it's completely budget neutral. It costs you nothing. We absorb the cost of everything. So if you lose, you pay nothing. Right up front, I think that's an important thing and a possible differentiator. But really, I mean, the major thing is that we really take this case personally, and that's why we're doing it. So that's why I think we're the only logical choice, and we're asking for your decision to retain us in this case.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, any questions so far?
I'd like to save them to the end. I want to hear both sides.
Sure. All right.
So in
folks,
the
go
interim,
ahead.
we're going to be working
And
with.
please tell us who you are also.
I'm Fred Tabak. I've been a lawyer for 50 years.
50.
Before some of you were born. And we're going to be working with a firm in New York called Napoli Skalnick, which has recovered billions of dollars in this type of case. What I would do is compare it to the tobacco lawsuits where the state of Wisconsin got hundreds of millions of dollars. There are numerous plaintiffs in this case: Milwaukee County, Waukesha County, Dane County. State of Wisconsin is going to be involved in this case. And all I can say from my own experience, Attorney Griffin talked about filing it locally. In my experience, this is going to be removed to federal court, and those of you that are lawyers are familiar with that. There's no doubt in my mind that that's going to happen. So I would like, we have Joe Sheshnik, on the line. Joe, would you mind you're before the West Allis committee called?
Administration and Finance Committee of the Common Council.
Joe, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi, everybody. It was a little broken up, so I couldn't hear much of what you were saying, but I can hear you if everybody can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Great. Go ahead, please.
Joe, could you tell us a little about your firm and your involvement with these types of cases.
Sure, and I should say also on the line is Shayna Sachs, and I think still Sal Badawa, two of the partners at my office as well. So we are Hi, there's Sal. Yeah. So we're Napoli Shkolnik. We're a law firm of about 50, 60 attorneys in about 8 or 9 different states. We've been involved in this litigation for about 3 or so years by now. We represent about 250, 275 counties and cities across the country. Just to move through it a little quick, current examples of some of the places we represent is we currently represent Cuyahoga County, which is in Ohio. And I don't know if Fred touched on this because I really only heard the very end of the conversation. But so there's about 1,800, 1,900, it's adding up every day, counties and cities who have filed this case over the past, 3 or so years. A lot of them, all of them that have been filed in federal court have been coordinated into what we call a multi-district litigation, or an MDL, where all the cases get sent to one judge to handle and to set initial trials and go through discovery and everything that needs to happen in the case so that it's all coordinated and not happening in 1,000 different places at once. And that was all sent before a judge in the Northern District of Ohio. So our client, Cuyahoga County, a very large county in Ohio, is going to be the first trial in the country against all of these defendants. The state of Oklahoma has a trial coming up next week against a couple of these defendants, which will really be the first trial if they don't settle in the next week or so. They've already settled with Purdue, one of the opioid manufacturers, for $280 million against Purdue Pharma, which is one of the various defendants in our case. That was the state of Oklahoma. But our client, Cuyahoga County, is going to be the first trial in October. So we've been spending the past year and a half really focused on that, getting that case ready for trial, doing dozens and dozens of depositions, and everything like that. We also represent most of the state of New York in a litigation that's going on in New York State Court against these same opioid manufacturers and distributors. In that case, the defendants obviously tried to dismiss the case, as they always do in the beginning. We were successful in getting past that, so now we're in discovery, exchanging documents and doing depositions and things like that in New York State Court. We also represent a lot of the state of West Virginia, who's in pretty much the same position in terms of the case that New York is in right now. And like I said, it's about 250, 260 cities, counties, from almost probably every state in the country that we currently represent, many of which are in the MDL waiting for the first trial to take place in October. A little bit more about us, and then I'll if you guys have any questions, be happy to answer them. I know I don't want to take up too much time. I know it's late. But this is really what our firm specializes in. We handle mass tort litigations, pharmaceutical litigations. We have a ton of experience in this field of law. We've been, very successful in this area with a lot of cases involving a lot of different drugs and other types of mass torts against pharmaceutical companies or all other types of companies. And we're hopeful that this case, and I'll just say hopeful, is going to reach maybe some sort of resolution with some of these defendants. That, obviously there's been stuff reported in the news and things like that the judge that's overseeing this across the entire country is very interested in trying to have a settlement in which all of the plaintiffs, every city and county that is filed, can take part in. And that's why, we've been encouraging counties and cities to get on board and consider filing a lawsuit for 3 years now. And now the time is somewhat running out. Not to try to rush anybody or push anybody, but again, we have our first trial in October, and we're hopeful that between now and then there's going to start to be some national resolutions with some of these companies. Nothing's guaranteed, nothing's happening tomorrow that we know of, but with a trial hanging over their heads, we feel like there's a good chance that there's going to start to be some national settlement for all of the counties and large cities that have filed across the country. Joe, I was just going to add something if you... Yeah, go ahead. The other thing I just wanted to add, I was before Judge Polster today in the MDL, and I will tell you that defendants started raising statute of limitations and specifically saying that every day a new case is filed, and at some point the court is going to have to cut off the filing of these cases. And the judge really didn't react, but, like Joe was saying, to stress the importance of getting on file in time for a global resolution is extremely important. And we understand this is a very serious decision. It takes time to consider. But one thing we definitely want to stress, it's important to try to get on file very soon, because defendants will use that against, newly filed cases at some point and say that they should have known or they should have been on file by such and such date. So just something to look out for and think about, especially since they already started raising it with the court, to kind of give them a heads up that this is something that they'll be looking to file motions in the future about. Right, that's a good point. And the only other thing I'll say is I heard somebody, I think it was Fred, or again, it was kind of breaking up in the beginning, but I heard mention of the tobacco litigation that I'm sure a lot of people are aware of. This is very different than tobacco in a lot of ways, but there are some comparisons. And as some of you may know, it was the case handled by the Attorney General's offices for the most part. The Attorney General's offices reached settlements, and then depending on where you are in the country, some counties and cities saw money from that settlement, and some saw virtually nothing and were very unhappy with the way it was handled through the Attorney General's office. So I don't know what your experience was in Wisconsin, but we're seeing something similar in that all the Attorney Generals have been either filing or planning on filing. We work very closely with the New York Attorney General. We've been meeting with the New Hampshire Attorney General. They're all trying to work with us now, because they've never seen anything like this, where counties and cities have decided to file lawsuits themselves. Because it's always been our argument that, while tobacco was a lot about Medicaid dollars and education and maybe more things that were handled at the state level, the opioid epidemic is more about, social services and police forces and first responders and things like that are felt much more at the county and city level than necessarily the state level. So that's why we've encouraged a lot of our clients, counties and cities with a decent population and their own police force and things like that, to consider filing their own lawsuit. That way they have their own say and their own chance to get some recovery directly from this case, rather than waiting to see what the Attorney General does and happens to distribute the money and what they use the money for. We represent a lot of the state of Oklahoma. Like I said before, their Attorney General reached a settlement with one of the defendants for $270 million, which is a lot. I mean, that's a big settlement for the state of Oklahoma, which does not have an enormous population. And most of that money was being directed towards a research facility, and there's been a lot of debate about how much would actually get to the counties, and it didn't seem like it was going to be very much. So our counties decided to pursue their own litigation for their own costs. So that's why a place like your city, that we do know has its own expenditures and its own police and things that have been impacted.
Okay, yeah, let me stop you right there, and so, one issue, of course, I think that we're concerned about, and, as representatives of the taxpayers, is if this all goes south, if this all goes wrong, and we were to take on your firm to represent us, what is the city of West Allis on the hook for, if
What's our
anything?
exposure?
Nothing. That's a good question that we maybe should have talked about in the beginning. Right. So the agreement, and I don't know if Fred has had the opportunity to circulate what the draft typical agreement that we have with most of the country looks like. But right, it's completely contingency based. We cover all the costs, expenses. We don't ask the city for $1 at any point. If the case is successful and the city gets the recovery, we get paid back the money that we invested in the lawsuit, and we get our contingency fee. If the lawsuit's unsuccessful, if the city gets nothing, if whatever happens, you'll never take $1 out of city budget to pay us or to pay anything towards the lawsuit. There's no money coming. I think it's clear, but there'd be no money coming from the city whatsoever for any reason.
Okay, thank you. And then we have some questions from the committee members. Alderman May?
Yes, this question's for Dan. Your proposal is to go directly to county court.
Mm-hmm.
And this gentleman said, well, that could be relocated to federal court. What happens under that scenario? What does that mean?
So, just back up a second. We believe, not to get too much into actual litigation strategy, that we can keep our case in state court. For a number of reasons that we can talk about maybe in a closed session, but we think that there are strategies to keep it in state court. Were at least 5 things that I want to do. This is what lawyers do, right? So, in a sense, and I respect counsel, he's made our point for us. Time and time again, big cases get settled to the detriment of local cities and counties, and I don't think I'm speaking out of school to say that. The settlement was against Purdue. It was $240 million, which does sound a lot. There's 3.8 million people in Oklahoma. So they basically gave a per head settlement. It was like, $79 per person for everyone in the state of Oklahoma. However, when they put the percentage signs next to who got what, the cities and counties were on the very short end of that stick. So much so that the cities and counties are now going back to court saying, actually, Mr. Attorney General, you did not have the authority to settle this case, Mr. Hunter, and why did you give us only 4% of this $240 million? What about, especially in a city like West Allis, right? You have a way higher than average prescription rate. Tonight you had somebody coming to the council that had probably a prescription drug issue, right? This is real. Possible. I just use that as an illustration, right? The fire department has won awards for its ability to track Narcan abuse and Narcan use in the city, overdoses. It's won statewide awards for that. So West Allis is not the same as any other city, in my opinion, and its damages are specific to West Allis. So there's a few other things here. The length of time, I think, should throw up a red flag too. The MDL has been going a long time, and it's now reaching its possible first trial, which is in October. Yes, the Oklahoma trial is going to start a week from today, and it's going to be televised. So if you guys are interested in watching it on TV, you can watch that. Real quick response too on a couple other damages issue. West Allis has 2 real components of damages. Again, you pay nothing either way. So we are going to absorb the cost of putting on your case as well. I think that's a differentiator. So the expenditures that we put on are coming out of our part, not your part. It's going to take a long time to get these trials to resolution. If they ever come back, you heard this phrase, take part in a global settlement. Those are words of tell us how many people live in your city and how old the population is, and then we'll kick out some number. You can take it or leave it. That's kind of what I'm hearing. West Allis has past damages that we can point to, and when I say it's going to cost you nothing, I'm going to be completely honest. It might cost a little time to get the police and fire department to let us know exactly how many prescriptions, how many overdoses were responded to, how much overtime has been paid for, how many calls have been just because of overdoses, because we can do that, and there's other cities in the county that can do and have done that. We also know that you are getting reimbursed on some level, likely for Narcan that's being used in the city, and that's being tracked by the fire department. I don't know if the fire department is still here, but they should be applauded for that. They're actually well recognized as having this website that's incredible. You don't see that in any other states that we're in, that they're tracking it that specifically. So that's past. The future damages, we talked about this a little bit. We are going to bring a nuisance claim on behalf of the city. And what that means, nuisance gets thrown around kind of as a Me Too kind of also lawsuit. But in this circumstance, it's real because we know we have a problem. I mean, no one's going to dispute that. The defendants don't even dispute that. They know we have an issue. The question is, what are we going to do about it? And how much is that going to cost? So to abate and get rid of this nuisance, it's going to take time. People are estimating about 10 to 15 years, and it's going to take money. So there's all sorts of models circulating, but West Allis's future damages, and this is just to give you some idea of what has been discussed nationally as to what that costs. It's approximately, if you look at a hub and spoke model, which is called, or the New Hampshire model, it's about $15,000 per person per year to treat and care for until they're cured. So that's an element of future damages. So that's what we believe the actual hard damages are going to be for the city and pretty much every city that is going to get involved. And I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. West Allis has been hit harder than most on this issue. If you look at a heat map of the state of Wisconsin, there's a big red dot over the southern part of southeastern Wisconsin, and then you're talking Cudahy, South Milwaukee, West Allis, Milwaukee. So it's real here. It's real personal to us. And I think if I haven't made it clear that we want to be your lawyers because we think it matters.
Okay, Mr. Chair, to my original question then, relocated, what does that mean?
Oh, so like literally what does that mean? If somehow the defendants were able to remove our case, because we're filing in Milwaukee County, they would remove, and this has been a strategy. By the way, you're getting the benefit of us having gone through this cases, other cases nationally. So we know their playbook. The playbook is as soon as you file, they're going to remove it. I can tell you right now they're going to do it. They'll think of some reason, somehow, some way to get your case out of Milwaukee County into the Eastern District of Wisconsin, which sits in Milwaukee. Then the game becomes, not the game, but then the question becomes, how do you get your case remanded? And because of the way and the parties that we're going to name, we're going to be filing only state actions. So we're going to be using Wisconsin law only, not federal. Right now, Milwaukee County sued using a RICO statute, so that got them into federal court. They filed directly in. Then we need to get our case remanded back to county court. So that's going to be the issue, and that's what council's referring to.
And if along that way, none of that stuff happens, then what?
Well,
Is there
that's
any way
not
to
what
get-
we
is there-
want.
Is there a way to get back into the
What would
federal
happen
case?
is, and now we're kind of like trying to forecast through a crystal ball, but
I
what would
understand.
happen is it goes into the Eastern District, and it would probably get tagged and sent over objection to the MDL, which is not what we want. We want to control our case. We don't want counsel that's on the plaintiff's, executive committee deciding how much West Allis should get. But that really kind of comes down to a remand decision by the federal court.
So best case, it's decided in our county court, worst case, it ends up going to the federal.
Or stayed, and then the cases are, when and if the cases are ever remanded, we actually get to try our case in federal court in the Eastern District.
Got it.
Okay, any other questions from the committee members? All right, yeah, hey, thank you, everybody, for coming. We aren't going to act on this tonight. We're going to talk it over with our city attorney, and we'll decide how to proceed. But hey, thank you all, and thanks to everyone on the phone also.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great night. Thank you. Thanks.
We'll see you at the ODAR. Which is an OHO now, the Office of Hearings Operations. Alex and I see each other there when we're lawyering.
Former
Been a
county
while.
supervisor?
Yeah, that's right.
Only
right.
24 years.
All right.
All right, so, and then you want to go into closed session then, Cale, on items 14 through 20? Is
If
that
there's a
correct?
need, if there's a need to, I can go over them briefly. 14 is just simply a lawsuit was filed regarding a claim that was denied. And so, the city will be, our office will be.
Well, let's go into
defending that
closed session, since it's noticed anyhow,
Sure.
and,
The major closed session will be for number 15.
Yeah, thank you.
okay.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you. For agenda items 14 to 20, the committee may convene in closed session pursuant to the provisions of section 19.851G of the Wisconsin State Statutes for the purpose of conferring with the city attorney who will render oral or written advice concerning the strategy to be adopted with respect to litigation in which the city is or is not likely to become involved. This committee may reconvene in open session after the completion of closed session to consider the balance of the agenda. And to go into closed session, Alderman Weigel.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Alderman Chapletsky.
Aye.
Alderman May.
Aye.
Alderman Rote.
Aye.
And we have 5 in favor. We are in closed session.
Shableski.
Do we have to vote on that
Let's
other
do-
one?
Vote on 15 in open session.
You wanna do it in open
Approve
session?
as presented if you do it then.
On 15?
Yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Motion to approve is presented.
And all in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, and now, any further discussion, or no, anything appropriate to come before the committee before we adjourn? Have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
For adjourn. Thank you.
Pardon me?
Good evening. We'll call the common council back to order. I'll ask our
right,
clerk
here
to
we
call the
go.
roll.
I knew we were in trouble. when we had
Alderman
6
May.
lawyers.
Here. Ranky. Ranky.
Oh, I'm sorry, here.
Rote. Here. Stefanski.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
Weig.
Here.
Weigel. Barzak. Here. Shpleski.
Here.
Haas.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
That's 10 present.
We have a quorum. Administration and Finance Committee, Alderman Haas.
Thank you, Mayor Devine. And the Administration and Finance Committee met and acted on the following items. Item 7 was approved as amended. The amendment was just a simple typo on the corrected year. Item 8 was adopted. 9 and 10 were adopted. 12 was placed on file. 15 was approved. And 16 and 17 and 18 were placed on file. 19 was denied, and 20 was placed on file. That is the Administration and Finance report. I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote. Aye. Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shpleski.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
And Lysick.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
That's the report. Thank you, Mayor Devine.
Thank you. For the Public Works Committee, Alderman Barzak.
I would like to bring your attentions to items number 21 through 24 and item number 26, were all resolutions adopted by all 5 members of the committee. I move for adoption of the committee's report.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the Public Works Committee report? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote. Aye. Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shpleski.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
And Lysick.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
Mayor Devine, that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. We read out the Safety and Development Committee, Alderman Lysick.
Mayor Devine, I refer you to items 27 and 28 on your agenda, a resolution and a communication. The resolution and communication are regarding a certified survey map at 10534 West Greenfield. It combines 2 lots into one. Action of the committee is for approval. I move for adoption of the committee report.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote. Aye. Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shpleski.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
And Lysick.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
That's all, Mayor.
Thank you. Alderman Chapleski, License and Health Committee.
I'd like to bring everyone's attention to item number 32 on tonight's agenda. This is our special event permit. It was voted for approval by 4 members with 1 member voting present. I'd like to move for the adoption of this portion of the committee's report.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Is there any discussion? No discussion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman May.
Aye.
Ranky.
Aye.
Rote. Aye. Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Present.
Barzak.
Aye.
Shpleski.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
And Lysick.
Aye.
That's 9 yeses and 1 abstention.
Motion carries.
Then we have item number 33 through 39, 46, and 48 on tonight's agenda. These are various license and reports. They are voted for approval. Approval subject to necessary requirements or to place on file by all 5 members. I'd like to move for adoption of the rest of the committee's report.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the remainder? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. And to wrap up the evening, we have the Advisory Committee, Alderperson Reinke.
I direct the council's attention to item number 49 on tonight's agenda. It's the reappointment of Danielle Romaine to the Police and Fire Commission, which was favorably approved by all 5 members of the committee. I move for her approval, Mayor Devine.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? There is no discussion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman May.
Aye.
Frankie.
Aye.
Rote. Aye. Stefanski.
Aye.
Vitale.
Aye.
Weigel.
Aye.
Barzak. Aye. Chapletsky.
Aye.
Haas.
Aye.
And Lysick.
Aye.
That's 10 yeses.
Motion carries.
That is all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine,
Alderman Lysick,
I move that we adjourn until our next regularly scheduled meeting, Tuesday, June 4th at 7 PM.
Second.
there is a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? We are adjourned.